Hello everyone, Mr. Price here with your read aloud for the day. We're continuing True Sort of, and we're picking up with chapter 18. We left off with Deli getting in some trouble, having some repercussions for her actions, and finding out that if she gets in trouble again, she's going to be expelled from school. Here we go, chapter 18. Oh, actually, we actually specifically left off with RB coming into her room and telling her that advice about counting to help stop himself from getting in trouble when he felt like doing something that would get him in trouble. So here we go, chapter 18. So it said she fell asleep counting, so this begins with that's how she woke up too. She brushed her teeth counting, trudged downstairs counting, crunched her cereal counting. She counted as Galveston growled at her, "I heard about you. You'd better shape up." 567, 568, 569. Her mouth mumbled while fingers curled into fists. "Galveston," Clarice called, "get over here." And she pulled her from the table. So the numbers were not truly tested. She counted to herself on the way to school. "What are you doing?" RB asked her. She didn't stop. "You're counting," he cheered. Then he sang it. "You're counting, you're counting." "Is it working?" he wondered. She shrugged. "It's working. You can stay. You can stay." He ran around her singing that. And Deli didn't tell him, "Don't count on it," because it was good to see somebody happy, even if it wasn't her. Lionel Terwilliger had to ask her every question twice, once for her to quit counting and again for her to hear it. Then, for one sweet moment, there were no numbers, but as soon as she answered, "A spider is an arthropod, not an anthropologist," she'd start again. It was the most boring morning ever, and when Deli imagined a lifetime of counting, it was like living death. "I can't," she rasped, till she remembered Clarice, or 4,732, 4,733. She kept on. At recess, she took herself to Alaska. "What the glove am I going to look at?" she asked the state of seclusion, because Deli'd done some thinking. There were two ways, she decided, she kept ending up in Troubletown. One was thinking something would be fun and doing it. The other was fighting. She wasn't sure the counting could keep her away from either of them. So she scanned the playground, searching for something that wouldn't tempt her with fun or the fight. There was Danny Novello out on the basketball court. "Just make me mad," she muttered. Gwenny and Tater were racing. Too glad. Everywhere kids were playing and shouting. Too ballgram fun, she rasped. Then she saw it, sitting under a tree, bent over a book. It was that Ferris Boyd. It wasn't fun, and it didn't make her want to fight much. "One," she began. From 1 to 1,129 she watched the girl turn the page twice. "Like watching ice melt," she mumbled. At 1,130, some birds flitted by Ferris Boyd. Squirrels ran circles around her. Deli yawned. At 1,492, a bird landed on Ferris Boyd's head. It put its beak in her hair. Deli sat up. The bird flapped down to Ferris Boyd's shoulder and hopped along her arm like it was a branch. It perched on her hand. "Huh?" Deli quit counting. Ferris Boyd looked up from her book. Then the girl and the bird stared at each other, as if they were having a conversation without making a sound. When they were finished, the bird flew off, and the girl went back to reading. "What's going on over there?" Deli rasped. The bell rang, and Ferris Boyd stood. The creatures disappeared into the air and across the grass. "Chisel," Deli heard herself sigh. Like she was sorry it was over. Like it was fun. That wasn't fun, she scolded herself. It was like watching paint dry. And she followed everybody into school. Sitting at her desk, though, she kept thinking about Ferris Boyd and that bird telling each other things without talking. 1,556, 1,557, she murmured. The day went downhill from there. During social studies, the digits dulled her to sleep. Lionel Terwilliger had to shake her. 1, 2, 3, she woke up shouting, till she heard laughs all around her. Paul Graham counting, she muttered. But when Novello passed her desk and hissed, "Hey, Smelly," she snarled, 858, 859, instead of slugging him. "Mr. Novello," Lionel Terwilliger boomed, "you will write Miss Pattison's name is Delaware 100 times. So the numbers were good for something. She was counting when R.B. came to her before dinner. "Hey," he said. She nodded. "Get in trouble today?" he whispered. She shook her head. He started singing, "No trouble today." Between 12,345 and 12,346, she told him, "It's like eating cardboard, R.B. It's killing me." "You can do it," he assured her. But Delhi was drowning in the dullness. Sorry, this is chapter 19. But Delhi was drowning in the dullness. Every day was nothing but numbers, the same ones over and over again. She stopped feeling sunshine. The world turned dingy gray, except at recess. The creatures came as soon as Ferris Boyd sat down. Red and blue and yellow birds danced in the air above her. Squirrels played tag beside her. Sometimes Delhi'd catch herself giggling and saying, "Ferris Boyd, those squirrels ran over your legs," as if she and the girl were friends, as if it were fun. Then she'd remind herself, "This is not fun. It's like watching grass grow." It was better than counting, though, and for half an hour Ferris Boyd wasn't the head down, hunched over kid she was everywhere else. Because in school, Ferris Boyd was a disaster. All day long she drooped over her desk as if sadness weighed her down so much she couldn't stand up or sit up straight. "Miss Boyd," Lionel Terwilliger would say, "please approach the blackboard and complete the problem." So she'd shuffle in front of the room and slouch to the board. "You may commence," he'd prod her. She never did. Finally, Lionel Terwilliger would give up. "Thank you, Miss Boyd. You may resume your seat." And she'd slump back to her chair. Without the animals, Ferris Boyd was barely a living lump. But Delhi felt all the time now. After school, Delhi counted as she washed desks for detention. The numbers walked home with her. They sat in the back of her head, waiting while she did her homework. "Counting is the worst Delhi punishment ever," she sighed. Except for this. Clarice hadn't cried again. That brings us to chapter 20. And back to Brud Kinney. All week, Brud Kinney counted the seconds till Sunday. At St. Stanislaus, he had a prayer. "Please let me see that boy play again, and I won't wreck it." Sunday morning, he pedaled slowly down the river road. About a block from the old Hennepin place, he heard it. Thump, 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 clang. He put his hand over his mouth to keep from shouting. At the end of the drive, he peeked around the brush. There was the boy, dribbling and jumping and shooting just like before. Brud laid his bike in the ditch. He snuck behind bushes till he was halfway down the drive. Don't mess me up again," his head warned the rest of him. Because Brud had a plan. He would watch, still and silent, for a little while. "I'll learn, then I'll leave," he decided. And at first his body obeyed. While the boy dribbled between his legs and behind his back, Brud's hands stayed still. When the boy ran down the drive, Brud's feet didn't stir. Then the boy took the ball in both hands and jumped. As he floated through the air, he turned so the hoop was behind him. Blind to the basket, he threw the ball up over his head. Brud stopped breathing. It was an impossible shot. The ball didn't know impossible. It soared to the rim and slid through it, and Brud Kinney's plan didn't have a prayer. "Oh, man," he whooped. His arms were pumping the air with happiness. The boy swung around. His scared eyes spotted Brud. Then he was running. Just like before, Brud needed too much too fast from his mouth. "Hey," he hollered, "you play real g." The boy was at the stoop. Brud tried again. "You play g." The boy reached for the door. It was over. Brud hit his mouth with his fist to hurt it. "Ugh," he cried. He hung his head and waited for the door to slam on him and his too basketball-loving body. It wasn't the words that stopped Ferris Boyd. It was the g-g-g, the sound of a mouth that wouldn't speak. It turned her around. She saw Brud hit himself. She flinched like she felt it. When the door didn't bang, Brud wondered if he'd been g-ging so loud he missed it. He looked up. There was the boy on the stoop, staring at him. Brud took a breath. He pointed to his mouth. Hard, he said. And the boy didn't leave or laugh. So Brud kept on. Play real The G got him again. His head went down for good. Brud didn't see Ferris Boyd walk toward him. He didn't see the pad and pen she took from her pocket till they were under his eyes. His face went red. I'm so bad at talking, he thought. That boy thinks I have to write. His hands stayed at his sides. The pen and paper disappeared, then came back. Right here was on the page, in pale, skinny letters. They weren't telling. They were asking. So Brud did. You play real good. I play too. I was just watching, he wrote. The boy read it and glanced at the ground. Time to go, Brud's head said. His hand wouldn't listen. Want to play a game? It wrote. The boy's eyes got scared again. He looked at the house, then Brud. He was weighing which it would be, and Brud could tell the house was winning. Give it up, Brud's head insisted. Instead, his mouth said, I'm Brud. The boy gazed into Brud's eyes like he was reading them, too. Brud let him. After a long time, the boy took the pad. H-O-R-S-E, he wrote. Your name? Brud asked. The boy shook his head. Oh, the game. The boy nodded. No touch, he added in big dark letters. He held the paper in front of him like a shield. No touch, Brud promised. The boy passed him the ball to begin. Brud was so happy he couldn't keep his mouth from yelling. Yes! Before he took a shot, though, he raised his arm like he was in school. The boy looked at him. What's your name? He asked. Slowly the boy printed, Ferris Boyd. Brud's right hand waved. Hi. He smiled till the tips of his teeth glowed. Then they played. It was over before Brud blinked. He got hammered. It wasn't that Brud didn't make any baskets. He did. It was because sometimes he missed. The boy didn't. Still, even getting skunked, Brud had the best time ever, because he got to watch the boy up close without barreling through bushes. Brud's last shot bounced off the rim and came back to the pavement. He turned to the boy. Again? He asked, because he didn't want it to end. But the boy had vanished. Nothing moved around the place except birds and a black cat. So Brud set the ball on the stoop and headed down the drive. Before he left, though, he turned to the house and raised his hand. See you next week. He wasn't telling. He was hoping. In bed that night, Brud was having one of his visions. In his head, he and the boy were playing horse again, and this time Brud was winning. Time out, he called, and walked over to the boy. Hey, I was thinking, he said, maybe you don't like talking either. That's why you have that pad. Maybe we just don't have to talk, ever. In his vision, the boy nodded, and Brud smiled so his teeth glimmered. And that's where we're stopping today, my friends. I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. Remember to complete your exit ticket, and remember to have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.